DisJointed Productions.
Hey, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the DisJointed podcast. This is the podcast about how do you go from a 9-to-5 life to one in creativity. And in the past, I've had many people on, amateurs, pros, semi-pros, but everybody has a different journey on trying to make that transition. And art has a tendency to be very fluid. And this week's guest, I think, really personifies that, especially because I've met you as a stand-up. Piper Shepherd, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
I'm Piper Shepherd.
I met you as a comic, not knowing anything about your music, and then like kind of slowly but surely over the past couple of years, like you've always been a musician.
Oh yeah.
I met you as
Everybody that I know now met me as a comic, and now they're like, "Oh shit, she could do all these other things. Why don't you just do all that stuff instead?"
Yeah. Like, hey, wait, fuck off.
Well, wait a second. Yeah, somebody introduced me to their friend the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, this is Piper Shepherd. She's a really funny comedian, but she's like an amazing musician. Like she's okay at comedy, but she's like really good at music." And I'm like, "Hey, what? Why don't you just fuck off now? Hey, I work really hard at comedy, and I spend more time doing that, really. So it's just like, I don't think people mean anything by it. They think they're complimenting me.
Right.
But if you look at the amount of time I put into comedy versus the amount of work I put into music, it's like comedy is obviously coming way before my other endeavors.
Right.
So it's just like, use common sense. Like, it's kind of rude to say I'm way better at something that I clearly am not working as hard at, which is like nice, but also like, I don't know, you could just keep it to yourself. If you think that, I don't need to know. Like, it just messes with my comedy ego.
Yeah, that would be fucked up if somebody's like, all right, coming to the stage next. It's a really amazing comedian, but she's also kind of funny too. Here you go. Like, if you don't like that, I'm sure I'm just, like,
my credits when people bring me up on stage is like, follow her on Instagram because she's gonna do Halloween costumes.
Right.
She's gonna do one a day, and I'm like, yes, I am. That's gonna be really cool. But also, this is a joke show,
yeah.
and this has nothing to do with dress up right now.
I have not been out to the mics nearly as much as I used to, even like a year ago. But I remember it started. It seemed like there was like it was a project that you gave yourself just to see if you can do it. I don't know. It was like 30 days or 31 days of different costumes and stuff. And they were. It's not like. Which, by the way, yeah, it's Piper Shepherd at Instagram, or.
Yeah, I mean, you can look up Piper Shepherd. My handle is Exorcistasy,
Oh, yeah,
which is, you know, just a weird.
I'll put it in the line.
Yeah, you gotta look at it. It's like Exorcist ASY, basically. But yeah, I mean, Piper Shepherd on all the handles. You can just put my name in, and it'll come up, Exorcistasy. But yeah, it's actually last year was the 5th time I've done that.
Okay.
So I did. The first time I ever did costumes in that kind of way was like 2010. I did like 16, and I just had a big album where I was just kind of dressing up all month. And then the next year, I was like, well, I'm going to do one a day. And then I did 31. And then I did that the next year. I did it 2 years in a row. And then I kind of took a couple years off. And then I did it again in 2014. And then I didn't do it again until last year. So I took 3 years off. In 2014, I did it. And then I did it last year, 2017. And I mean, last year was the best one. I had the biggest outreach because at that point, I've been doing comedy for 3 years. So I have a bigger network of people that are seeing what I'm doing. So it was a little bit more pressure for it to actually be good and for me to post like one on the day every day.
The trippiest one, there was I loved all of them, but the one, the Wayne Coy when you did that one was I'm like, oh, that's freaking awesome. And then I saw that like he liked it or something.
Oh yeah, he followed me on Instagram after that and like checked out the rest of my costumes. It was pretty awesome.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, man. Wayne Coy, for anybody who doesn't know, is the lead singer of the Flaming Lips. And if you don't know anything about the Flaming Lips,
You should.
you should. Just for anything, like you look up the documentary Fearless Freaks, and that's how I actually got exposed to the Flaming Lips because I saw that I was on Netflix, and I mean the only thing I knew of them was the "She Don't Use Jelly" song from back in the '90s.
Right.
That was the only thing I knew. So after seeing that, I started with Clouds Taste Metallic, and then just worked my way up, and I got to Yoshimi, right, which is a freaking amazing album. And then I remember buying At War with the Mystics. Couldn't quite get into that one. The last one that I bought was The Terror, and I could honestly feel my brain hurting as not in a bad. It was kind of like this music is doing something to the brain chemistry.
Well, The Terror is just like a weird. I mean, compared to like the rest of their major studio albums, The Terror is clearly like way headier and like way more just like deep psych.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just so it's so much. So you have to be like really, really into psychedelic music.
That's not a casual thing you just pop in and just to listen to.
Well, they have a range of like, you know, pop psychedelia that's like people that listen to the radio could get into, like a lot of songs off of Yoshimi or like that. And then you have like The Terror and you have Zyrika and I mean they have a gigantic catalog, and then they have like 8 major studio albums that everybody knows. But then I mean they have so much music, and a lot of it is just like a lot headier, and it's just more for like true connoisseurs of like heady psych music. You know?
It's I almost put it compared to almost like Radiohead, right? Like for I will say that I hated Radiohead for the longest time. Not because I thought they were a shitty band. It was this back in the '90s. Radio stations killed bands by overplaying them.
Oh yeah. Then you don't want to. You don't even feel like you can like them anymore because of the radio.
Right. So like I would say that like Hootie and the Blowfish was a good band, but everybody grew to hate them because all you heard was just like every 2 seconds there was another Hootie song. Matchbox 20, I thought was a good band. Until they played every single song on that entire album over and over and over again, so they just killed it. So either way, that's what they were kind of doing with Radiohead, and also Green Day I would add to this. This is back in New York in like 94, 95.
Right. People would like Green Day if they weren't overplayed.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's the only reason people like don't like them is because of the way it's been marketed and like oversaturated and like overproduced and put out to us. We're just like desensitized to whatever was maybe good about it. We're just like,
I didn't
okay.
really even dig them until Warning came out. When Warning came out, that was the first Green Day album I bought. And I'm like, oh, I really like these guys. I still don't want to listen to Dookie, but like...
Yeah.
But I remember like when I first got like my first little iPod and I downloaded OK Computer because there was like I think one song on there that I wanted to listen to. I'm like, oh, because one of the things I learned from my brother Drew was that if you get a new album, you just start from the beginning, you listen to the whole thing all in one sitting, then you keep going back and listening over and over again to really kind of soak in the music. And I remember a tear came out of my eye as I'm walking to the grocery store because I was so pissed off at myself. This had to have been 2008, 2009, and I was so pissed at myself because I didn't listen to this album sooner.
Oh, yeah. That's how I was when I first started listening to the Flaming Lips. I was like, why didn't I like this before now? Why did it take me so long to figure out that, like, this is my favorite shit? Like,
right.
I mean, now it's fine, but, you know, I could have gone to see them for the first time, like, 10 years ago as opposed to 5. And then I'd have way more Flaming Lips street cred or whatever.
Then you end up being that schmo that goes, like,
I started listening to them when The Terror came out. Those Yoshimi days, I didn't even know who the fuck they were, really.
It's like the person comes up, have you guys ever heard Abbey Road? I'm like, yeah, dude, we've heard it.
We've all heard it. We've been done heard it now.
Dude,
where you been?
You know what? I will say that I remember I was driving up to, this is a lot when I was living in Phoenix, I was driving up to Prescott to visit my brother Marty, and my mom was with me. So my parents pretty much stopped listening to music around 1964, and they shut the radio off, and they didn't really want to listen to anything else. So, like, I missed out. Like, while everybody else, their parents were listening to Zeppelin and the Stones and all that other stuff. My parents didn't listen to any of that, so I knew nothing about it, right? So over time, obviously, I had to, you know,
Had to figure it out for yourself.
figure it out for myself. So I knew my mom had only listened to old Beatles stuff. She never listened. Once they started growing their hair long, she's like, I don't want to listen to that hippie shit, you know, that type of stuff, right? So on the way up, we listened to Help, and because it's like an hour drive, a little over an hour drive. On the way back, I put in Abbey Road. So
And what was your reaction?
The first one, like, you know, she's like, oh yeah, this is Abbey Road. She's like, oh okay, and then, you know, when some of the songs get kind of intense, like Oh Darling, you know, and I'm like, yeah, it's really bluesy, right? She's like, oh yeah, okay. Now she kind of hears the bluesy part of it. She's like, oh, it's not just screaming. And then of course the last,
Yeah, it's not death metal. It's the fucking Beatles.
but the last, you know, like that last third of that whole entire album that just kind of blends together.
Mm-hmm.
And when it gets to Because, she was like, I didn't know they made music like this.
Yeah,
She was like,
you weren't listening.
yeah, I'm like, I didn't know they made these, mijo, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, wait till the very end, Mom. You know? And luckily, because music's, it's weird. It's always been a big part of our family, but very few of us are musicians. Like my uncle is a mariachi, so he's been a singer for, like, he's 76, 78. Still doing shows, still going out doing, like, either at senior centers or community events and everything, still singing, belting, doing all this stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, I hope I could be like him. You know, I'm still slinging jokes and stuff at that age and stuff. But yeah, he's never stopped performing. But, you know, my mom wasn't a music person. My brother Drew, big music person. Me, kind of, you know, but it's kind of weird. But when did, like, I imagine, because the music that of the few videos that I've seen that you put on YouTube, which if you guys YouTube Piper Shepherd, you can see what I'm talking about. I'll put
I got music videos, man.
Exactly.
I got some singles,
and they're legit fucking videos. I'm not comedian musician, fucking musician.
Yeah.
Which
I keep those things separate because I want to be a purist in both art forms, and I think it's just better that way. I think comedy's better when it's just comedy, and music's better when it's just supposed to be good music.
Right.
You know, like, that's just my take on it. I mean, I there are musical comics that I do admire, and I have written comedy songs, but it's not what I'm pursuing, which always throws people off.
you want to deal with the hate of walking into a mic with a guitar and everybody just like a collective.
No, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that girl. I don't want to be the guitar girl at the comedy open mic. Like, it's annoying. Like, if I'm booked on a show and I have a longer set and I feel like maybe the crowd would appreciate, like, a song, like, sure, maybe I'll bring it in, but you don't need to do songs at open mics. I don't feel like I need, because I can practice those songs in my house.
Right.
You know, and if you know if a song is funny. I mean, it's a lot easier to tell if a song is funny than if a joke is funny, I think.
It's weird, you know. I feel bad for, like, somebody who's, like, a first year into to comedy, and they really, really want to be a guitar comic.
Right.
And it's such, like, most comics are insanely shitty. I won't say insanely, but it's like there's that air of, like, what the, like they're cheating somehow. But I'm like, no, that's a legit form of comedy.
It is a legit form of comedy. Yeah, it's just, I think it's hard. It's easy to write a comedy song, but I think that's what makes it hard, is it's hard to make something that really stands out and is, like, laugh out loud funny that hasn't already been done.
Right.
I mean, because, the kind of comedy songs I hear, it seems to be a lot of the same themes over and over again,
Bad ex-girlfriend, something like that.
Right. It's bad ex-girlfriend. The same thing as, like, any first-year comics, like, kind of jokes in general.
Something involved with butt stuff.
Butt stuff, poop.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't...
God, I had to make... it would be so pretentious, but to make a list of, like, first-year premises. So, like, if we hear... what was it? Like...
I look like.
Yeah, exactly.
How
did I dress this way? Who dressed me?
Right.
Bad haircut. Can't get laid. What's the other one? Flaccid anything. Any type of rape joke.
Any type of rape joke, any
Right.
type of racial humor. There's this one premise that I started hearing around all over the fucking place, and I was like, this is so hack. And I didn't realize it, but it's the premise. It's like your mom talking a lot while you're watching a movie together. That's something I heard. Like I heard it in 10 different sets and on TV and stuff in like a week, and I was like, why is this? This is kind of played out. You guys, you should stop doing this premise.
Well, it was weird. Like I think a similar experience, but it was like various like younger. When I say younger, female comics, I mean they've been only for like a year or two. But yeah, I could have swore that I've heard the term flaccid penis at least from 4 different comics in 1 week. And it was just kind of like, all right, is this the thing going around, the non-thread?
Well, I mean, that's one. It's so common and just so like not that funny because it's like, oh, big surprise. Sometimes guys can't get hard. Like, whoa, what? Whiskey dick? Who'd have thought?
Exactly.
It's like we all know about whiskey dick, and sometimes people are gay. And, sometimes you're just not in the mood. It's pretty common. There's no shock factor. I don't know. There's
you see, that actually sounds like a really funny premise to me, though. Like, especially like if you're like, let me all tell you about whiskey dick. All right, I'll sometimes.
Sometimes people haven't heard of it, and then they write 20-minute monologues about it as if we have no idea that a dick could, in some universe, not work at a point in time.
Exactly.
It's like,
now, unbeknownst to you, you might realize you have a penis, right? And it might not work this evening. Why did I'm starting to sound like an alcoholic Dr. Phil.
You know what'll make a penis work? What's that? It's the Viagra. That's the one. Yep. What you need to do, you get you some Viagra. And
y'all hear about this? Y'all heard about
it?
Right?
I just got hip to it, y'all, yesterday. Changed my whole life. Hey, whoa! Y'all need to get on my level. It's like, oh man! I mean, in all fairness, like I've been a very bad comic. I've done some really hokey premises.
Dude, I remember doing some shitty freaking hacky premise that, as I was saying it, luckily it was at Strange Ground, so nobody gave a shit. But
as it left your mouth, you were like, "This is not ever coming out again."
I think it was a proctology joke.
Oh God!
And I was like, I couldn't scrub myself hard enough in the shower to get that joke off of me.
I've told some jokes that left a bad taste in my mouth, left a bad taste in other people's mouths. Probably the most tasteless joke I think I ever did was this guy killed himself on Facebook Live. He lit himself on fire on Facebook Live.
Whoa.
And I did a joke about like why would you do that when you can't even see how many views you're gonna get or how popular how popular your like live stream was. It was just some really like tacky suicide joke, and like one of my friends that like was also from the town where that happened in was she's like, hey, I think you should maybe stop doing that. I'm like, well, you don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna do what I want. But then I was like, I mean, yeah, I should probably stop doing it. It's pretty tasteless. It's not funny enough to keep telling it. And it's like if it was really funny, I'd be like, fuck you. But I'm like, it's not worth it. It's not
crushing that hard.
It's not crushing. It's doing okay at best. Like there's
all right,
no.
I will concede the fact that it was not funny, but I'm reserve the fact, right, that if it had crushed.
If it had been funny, I would still tell it, but it wasn't that funny.
That would be my opener, middle, and closer.
Right, yeah. Well, the thing is, if it's funny enough, it doesn't matter. But if it's not that funny, then it's like it's just not worth it.
What was it? I haven't been able to go out at all last week because due to a lot of money issues, but that shooting at the gaming tournament, which is fucking tragic, right? But I saw a joke in there, and I'm like, this is not the week to tell that joke, and I'm not going to do that, right? Because it's super, super tragic. But the idea, and I'm not. I mean, anybody who's played online video games and not wanted to kill the other person that's on the other side for talking so much trash, like I don't know if anyone knows where the majority of the racism is in America. It's all on the PSN network and Xbox Live, and it's usually coming from like suburban kids dropping N-bombs, calling every like horrible thing because there's no repercussion. Like if you said that to somebody else, violence is in front of them, violence is more likely going to ensue. So when they have these tournaments, that's where the idea came from, and like they keep doing the same trash talking and thinking that nothing bad could happen. Like you don't know how unhinged the other person is, you know. So, but I'm like, I saw that there was a premise there, but I'm like, yeah, this isn't the time to work on it.
I've done some very shameful, offensive things in the past that I did not have any concept of it being wrong.
Right.
Or I was like, I had other people, like, nobody, nobody called me out on it, and I thought it was fine. And then years later, I would go back and be like, I should probably take that down. It's somebody, that's just like dirt. I don't want anybody uncovering.
Oh, somebody's already screenshotted that shit. They're going to wait for you to blow up.
Oh,
like,
God. Well, yeah,
that crab's already in the bucket.
Fortunately, it's so deep down the rabbit hole of things I've done. Hopefully, it just doesn't come up. Yeah. But if it does, I can always defend myself. Like, look, I took it down because I figured out that it was stupid and wrong, and I didn't mean to be offensive, and nobody ever told me why. Because there's a lot of things that, like, you don't know why they're offensive or why they're wrong if you're ignorant to it.
Right.
And until you learn, it's like you don't think you're doing anything wrong. I mean, and when you learn that it was wrong, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. I'm sorry. I'm taking it down.
Well, there's this weird thing with comedy because comedy could be very healing for a lot of people. There's a lot of like there was actually a joke that my wife made up, and she made her own joke. She was very proud of herself, and she's a big fan of comedy, and she's really, really smart about it, right? And I would say that even if I wasn't married to her. But there was a lot of family trauma, and I believe we might have talked in the podcast before. But either way, somebody in her family who had hurt her really badly, right, and was going to be arrested. And ended his life before the cops were going to pick him up that morning, right? So somebody's like, no, this person did a lot of horrible things to me, but he did do one good thing for me. I'm like, what's that? He killed himself. I'm like, it was a good one, right? Right? So, and there's more to it, but I'd have to go into more detail about it, right? But the whole thing is that making that joke, that's a part of a healing process for her to try to find like the cosmic humor and all this crazy shit that's going on there, right?
Right.
So now that joke could really, really hurt a lot of other people who maybe is not coming from the same point. They're like, you should never joke about suicide. But for this person, it wasn't the same thing, right? So what's bizarre with comedy, and I said this on previous podcasts, but sometimes you have to say the wrong thing in order to find the right funny. And that's where the process of trying to find something
it's a process. You have to bomb to get better. You have to embarrass yourself and humiliate yourself, and
it's unfortunate when you hurt somebody in the audience. When you're in the search for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is it's weird. I've noticed a lot of things I think will be more offensive than they aren't.
Right.
Because a lot of us are on high alert. We're like, I don't want to say this because it's going to piss somebody off, and then you say it, and then they actually think it's funny. Because that's the thing is, if it's funny, people will laugh at it.
Right.
And the only time it's not okay is if it's not funny. And it's not funny if people don't laugh. Right. I mean, and if most people are laughing and one person's kind of uncomfortable, it's like, well, that's going to happen to all of us throughout our lives outside of comedy.
Right.
Like, there's a million things that could trigger me throughout the day. In certain weeks or certain days, I'm more sensitive to it than others.
Right.
But that's just a part of life. Like, I can't escape the word scissors.
Right.
Even though there's a weird reason why that word would like upset me sometimes, but
right.
It's like, what am I supposed to do? Be like, hey, don't say the word scissors.
Right.
Like, you can't say it. That's a trigger. I mean, no. Like sometimes if I hear it, I think about.
You know what? One of these days when you start making, getting merch and T-shirts and stuff, that's going to be one of the first things. It's just going to be your Instagram handle with a pair of scissors and a line with a cross.
Don't say scissors. It's a trigger. Trigger warning.
This girl will go off on your ass. Don't even mention it.
Don't mention it. Well, it's like you can't, there's certain things that you just have to accept. It's your problem.
Right.
And it sucks, but you can't expect the world to adapt to like some of your problems.
I think there's some folks out there that don't quite get that though. And I
Right.
think that's one of the
Like everybody has different things that trigger them, and they're all random and weird and specific, and we can't just walk on pins and needles all the time.
right.
We can be cognizant.
Gosh, well, like my wife deals with depression and bipolar schizophrenia as well, right? Like one of the things that will piss her off is if she sees like people making jokes about being bipolar, or not being bipolar, making bipolar jokes. If somebody doesn't have it, right? Or when somebody just like kind of laughs it off and like, oh, I'm feeling bipolar today, and she's like,
you don't even get it. I mean, I'm bipolar too, and I mean, I don't get offended if people make that joke,
right?
Because I don't know. It's just
it's not like she goes up, but I think
it's just stupid. It's a stupid thing to get mad about because people don't actually mean any harm by it. I mean, it is nice to point it out, like, hey, you know, actually these stereotypes about bipolar disorder aren't true, and you should know that. But people are still going to make jokes. Oh, the weather's being very bipolar today. Like, I'm not going to take personal offense to that because I'm bipolar. And I know that my personality isn't adjacent to the fucking weather patterns.
Right.
You know, like it's not gonna make me mad
right.
that somebody made that stupid joke.
I think it depends with Jenny. It depends on who made it. But I think one of the things that she really, I think, would frustrate her, and I'm kind of putting words in her mouth. Let me mansplain my wife's point of view on this. But no, she's. I think when the folks don't quite understand. Everybody kind of knows idea what being depressed is for the most part, right? When feeling sad, but they don't quite get what being manic is.
Right.
And so she's like, you don't know what it's like being in a manic phase and coming out of it, realizing that you're now like a shitload of money into debt. You've done a bunch of crazy stuff that you really, really regret. And you've just because it's her
right.
You know, which I never have seen her, and I've seen her get close to one, right? And she even told me, like, if I, like, she will say, like, I'm feeling kind of manic and stuff today. So she'll, like, we have a great relationship where she's like, I'm thinking about getting this and this, maybe buying this, because I know spending's going to be the first thing. And so I'm like, are you feeling okay? It's like, why? Well, I was like, no, I mean, like, I think it's cool that you want to get some jewelry, but why do you want to get 80 different types of yarn, as an example? You
right, like,
mean?
what are you going to, what's the practical use for this?
Right,
like,
are you actually going to start this, or just something that seems good in the moment and everything, and then that, and, like, vice versa, like, I know when I'm starting to feel impulsive, or I'm starting doing stuff, like, we're really good about vocalizing what's going on, but we've also been in places in our lives before when we don't talk to anybody. And then suddenly, like, hey, you know what? I got this big wreckage of all this horrible memories behind me now that there's nothing I can do about it. I
try to talk about everything to somebody as soon as it happens, or else it's gonna haunt me. I just that's why I trust people too much, because I'm like, I have to let somebody know. I have to tell somebody, or it's gonna make me crazy.
Yeah, that's why I started this show.
But yeah, I mean, my whole thing with bipolar disorder, the thing that offends me the most, and people don't realize it, is when they treat bipolar as like a one-size-fits-all kind of illness.
There's so many different things, yeah.
Because there's so many different, you know, like if there's one person who's doing something really fucked up and really causing a lot of damage and hurt in other people's lives, those friends will sometimes be like, well, I don't know. I mean, she's fucking bipolar, dude. So, and I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm bipolar, and I'm not fucking up all y'all's lives right now.
Right.
And we're friends, too. But I didn't act that way. You know, it's not... You can't just blame it on being bipolar. Like, sometimes shitty people are just shitty people, and doing shitty things can't just all be chalked up to one size fits all mental disorder.
There was this just dealing with any type of like mental illness and then addiction, because I'm not trying to conflate the two. But,
right.
The weirdest thing is like, just coming from somebody who was in recovery for a long time, that it's really, really easy to blame everything on an addiction, but that's kind of a lie, because at least this was my point of view on it, is that I could have made a different choice every single time that I fucked up.
Yeah.
Every single time I could have made a choice, but the way that I put it was like, I put it in Dungeons and Dragons terms, where I'm like, well, you had a 1 in 4 chance of making the good choice. No, wait, you had like 1 in 100. That's what the odds were, right?
Yeah.
You were on a percentile. You might have, out of rolling the two 10-sided dice, you might have gotten that, made that good choice. But because you're not aware of how your brain's working, how your personality's doing. You're not aware of what's going on in here, your head and your heart. You have really low odds. The more work that I did, the more therapy that I got, then I got it down to like, all right, I have a 75% chance of making a good decision. Now I have an 80%. Now I have a 95% chance. But that's always going to be there. I always have that ability to make the wrong choice.
Right. I mean, you have to work on yourself, and you get better and better slowly over time.
Right.
And also, I mean, the thing that people don't realize about like bipolar specifically is you're not always manic or depressed. Sometimes you're level.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just fine, and then you're not always experiencing this like the side effects of bipolar disorder. It comes and goes. And also, yeah, I mean, you can work on yourself. I mean, I don't take medication. I've had this diagnosis since I was 8 years old that I was bipolar, and I've never really stuck with any sort of medication, and I'm pretty high functioning. I mean, there are some things about my life where it's like, well, maybe I would have done this or that or been more productive or more successful had I been on some sort of medication. But there's also a chance that a medication could have like fucked my life up or fucked my brain up and like taken me down a path that I wouldn't be on now, which is probably not a path I want to be on.
You might be an accountant right now.
Right, exactly. And it's like, I mean, and I think people that take medication, that's a good thing.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pro medication. I just personally have tried to manage it through like cognitive behavioral things and just like, I don't know.
You know what's really weird is that we, when we started changing our diet around, she noticed, and I noticed a change in her energy levels and how much stress she was able to deal with when we changed our eating habits.
Yeah, it does make a big difference.
That was a really kind of a surprising thing. Or there was this digestive enzyme that I would take occasionally, and I got some for her to try it, and she took it for 2 days in a row, then had to stop. I'm like, why? What's going on? She's like, I am seriously depressed right now. Like, seriously. I'm like, wow. So that was, realized that gut biome and stuff was really, really affecting her brain chemistry.
Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does. I gotta say, the most money I think I've ever made in a short period of time was when I was a vegan. I don't know. I mean, because I just had like I had a regimen, I would jog every day, and there were certain things that I would buy at the grocery store, and like I was really into cooking, and I just had like structure in my life, and I was focused on being healthy. I mean, like the vegan diet itself isn't, I don't think, what did it all. I think just the fact that there was something that I was focused on, that I was doing, that like kind of kept structure in my life. And that could be keto or vegan or whatever it could be anything. But for me, it was veganism at the time. And I look back, I'm like, yeah, that's like the most money I ever had. I did the most traveling I ever did. Like whenever I was off the meat. I don't know.
I'm off the meat, son. You don't.
I was off the meat. Now I'm making cross-country road trips. I don't know what it is, y'all. Vegetarianism will take you around the country. That is not true. But, there's certain things that just, have different effects on your life. And just having some sort of structure like that, I think, goes a long way. And knowing what works for your body.
It's kind of crazy. Like, because the restaurant that I work at, I always try to throw out, at least to the younger folks and stuff, is like, it's really important to have if you're not like trying to get a degree or trying to work on a career or something like that, you really, really need to get a hobby. And getting fucked up isn't a hobby.
Or get a trade or something.
Well, it's just, I find that people who actually have something that they really are trying to strive for to get better at, I mean, having that focus, like we spend, 12, 13 years, 13 if you count kindergarten, in the structured environment, right? Because we're trying to graduate high school and stuff for whatever reason. And then if you don't go on to college and now you graduated, you're like, oh, great, I don't have to study, I don't have to do anything anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But it's kind of nice to keep learning stuff and growing. And
it gives you something to do other than get fucked up, for sure.
And I think a lot of folks who just tend to, I think when I see they're just like miserable, whether it's customers that I'm waiting on or whatnot, you see there's no joy. There's, like that. like you remember being a kid just playing outside with your friends, and there's just kind of like you're all running like, oh my god, everything's so awesome and stuff like that. And when you see that go out in like people's eyes, and you're like, man, do you have anything that makes you happy like that anymore? What's going on?
Right.
You know?
It all died. It's all gone. There's nothing that gives you that childlike joy. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to find that again. Even when you have passions or hobbies,
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to find joy doing that same thing. I mean, for doing stand up, for example, like that is my passion. That's what I spend most of my time doing. But there are plenty of moments when I don't feel fulfilled or I don't feel happy. And if it's normally because I'm not where I want to be with my stand up.
Right.
And I don't have the inspiration or like the work ethic that's like projecting me forward, or I'm not like moving forward or doing new things. Like when you get stagnant in anything, I think, you kind of lose joy in life.
No, totally. That's when I feel when I'm not pushing myself or trying to do anything that's creative. I can feel all the old destructive wheels start to turn. Like, well, if you're not going to do anything, you want to just destroy shit. I'm like, yeah. Well, wait, no,
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better about it over the years, but I still have like problems with addiction issues and like I mean that's like the main reason why I'm doing this costume project again, because last year I was a month into being on probation and I was sober and I just needed something to fucking do because I was having such a hard time, couldn't smoke weed or drink or do any kind of drugs, and those are my hobbies. And so I'm like, I've got to do something. So the costumes really, and I had done it before too, so it was cool to like bring back a project that I'd done before, and it gave my brain something to do that was satisfying, that was coping with all the drug use. And now I want to do it again, but I'm not on probation, so
Right.
it's like, okay, I can't, it's not going to be as good if I don't like quit drinking for a little bit or slow down or like stop doing so many drugs, because you're just not going to be as functional and it's going to be sloppy and you're not going to meet your deadlines. So I'm hoping, that'll kind of give me a reason to kind of stay straight for a little bit and give my brain a rest from all the partying I did over the summer.
Right. It's high planes just went happened.
Yeah, high planes just happened. I like just threw all my serotonin out the window by the end of it. It was all gone. There's no more.
Y'all got some juice? You
Yeah.
need some.
I'm like, how do I get these serotonin levels back?
Oh, jeez, damn.
I guess you quit drinking. That's the way to do it. Like,
Yeah, that'll be a nice crush.
that sucks. I hate quitting drinking. It sucks, but you have to do it sometimes. You have to give yourself a break.
I think it's important. Like, what was it? I got to stop mentioning Rogan's podcast so much, but they did this thing last October called the Sober October, because they were trying to see if Bert Kreischer could like go without drinking for a month, and because they were like, we're kind of worried about you, man. You
We're
drink
worried,
it."
yeah.
So they did this whole thing, like, what was it? 15 hot yoga classes, no weed, no drinking or anything like that for a month and stuff. And so they're like, oh, that was pretty refreshing because they got pretty introspective towards the end, but
A month really is a good amount of time to take off.
Yeah.
It's a solid amount of time. A week doesn't really do anything. 2 weeks kind of does, but a month is like, it's not too long, but it's not too short. It shows that you can do something,
yeah.
or that you can go without something. It's like a good determinant. I mean, I went 8 months. Well, technically 6. I was traveling. I went on a vacation when I was on probation, and I had a couple days where I knew that I could definitely get away with it.
Mhm.
And that was the only time.
Allegedly.
So I broke my sobriety after 6 months, but then I immediately had to quit drinking again after 2 nights of drinking, and I had to stay sober.
Yeah.
And then luckily I got off 2 months later. But yeah, I mean, so technically 6 months, but I don't know. I feel like if you drink for like 1 or 2 days in like an 8-month period, like I consider that 8 months of sobriety.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I would do.
Like it's like taking a cheat day with like your diet or something. Like you're still a vegan just because you ate some fucking something that accidentally had beef juice in it or whatever. Like we all make mistakes, or we all have slip ups, or nobody's perfect. I was always like 98% vegan,
Right.
Like I would still use my non-dairy creamer that technically had like 2% milk extract or whatever.
Folks, you can totally eco bro on you on that. Well, actually, you know how many people like died because of the 2% milk that you. Yeah.
Exactly. We're like, okay, well, whatever. It's just easier. I'm 98% vegan's close enough, right?
Hey, listen, man. There's still a lot more.
I'm still doing a lot, okay, for eliminating my carbon footprint.
Exactly.
I got a DUI, and then my car blew up, and I don't have a license anymore, so now I don't have a car. So you're welcome, planet Earth.
I'm glad I could help.
Glad I could help you. You judge me all you want, but I am not driving a car.
It's not irresponsible that they're not happy.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, one of the things I was just kind of curious about, like, because I could hear it in your music. How long have you been doing music? I'm guessing at least 10 years now, or?
I started taking guitar lessons when I was 8 years old. I took guitar lessons for 2 years, and then my guitar teacher got carpal tunnel, and she had to quit teaching guitar, so I just taught myself after that, and I've just kind of used tabs on the internet and resources.
That's what I do, and just for a little project, I'm going to try to sing this song and see if it, doesn't suck.
Yeah, and then I learned how to play bass guitar in the high school marching band, and so I could read music for bass for a while, and was playing that, and so I don't know.
How many musicians do you think there are in the comedy scene?
There's a few. I mean,
like Mears was a drummer.
Yeah, Mears. Well, I'm actually I have a band, Slatriarchy.
Oh, yeah.
That's me and 2 other comics, and they're great musicians. It's Adam Podesky and Will Mearswa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Adam Podesky played the bass, but he also plays guitar. But he's a great bass player.
Oh, wow.
Really, really musically talented. And Will Mearswa, he came in for 1 or 2 practices before we had to play a show, and we just got it so quick. He just gets it, And yeah, Aaron Middleton is a drummer, or used to be, and
Jeff Cohn's bassist.
Yeah, CJ Willard was the original drummer for Slatriarchy. So yeah, he's a musician of sorts, and
I think Adrian Mason is all.
Adrian Mason is very talented. He's a really good guitar player and keyboard player. Yeah, Adrian Mason is a great musician. Zach Moss is a really good musician.
Oh, yeah.
And shit, who else is there? I remember. Oh, Evan Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good guitar player. I've jammed with him before. He's fun. He's a fun kid to jam with for sure.
I remember Crawford saying he's like, don't ask him to play Freebird. He'll play the whole fucking thing.
He will. Yeah. He knows.
Like,
he knows
really
those. He knows the classic rock hits for sure. That guy could probably play some Tom Petty or some Zeppelin or something. I don't know. I jammed with him once, and it was a very fun day.
There was one of the things I missed so much about about my friends in Arizona, and you guys that beginning drum solo that I always play at the beginning of every episode. The Grand Crescero number 17, because every time my friends we do a jam session, we would always end up just hitting those 2 chords, right? And we started this thing what I used to call the Artist Haven, and we would start about 10 in the morning, and you could bring anything as long as it wasn't music related. If it was writing, painting, or anything like that, but we got a bunch of folks in the house, and we would just work in 15-minute blocks, and then take a 10-minute break, go back again, set a timer for 15 minutes, and the whole day would just melt away.
Oh, that's a very good structure.
We just sit there the rules were don't give your opinion on anybody's work. Don't ask for anybody's opinion on anybody's work. They're not here for you.
Just do the work.
You just do the work. That's all it is. So we'd have the first time we did it without music, and then the second time we're like, all right, we want to really kind of do a jam session, but we would start at 6 in the evening. So from 10 to 6, it's 8 hours of just nonstop painting, nonstop writing, and whatever, right? And it's weird, kind of with the jam session when you're around a bunch of people, it's this weird Zen thing that's going on, and the first time we did the jam session, we started at 6 at night. We did not stop till 4 in the morning. So everybody's hands are so fucking tired. We're all fuck, how much music? We have 8 hours of music that we have.
Oh, guys, it hurts. My hands get sore.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, the fun thing we did it, the way they did it, everybody brought I think there was only 1 electric, 1 Gretsch, and then a couple of acoustic guitars. But then there was a bunch of djembes, tambourines, right? A piano that was there, a theremin, various instruments of all different types and stuff. So you would just keep going from different instrument to instrument. You wouldn't necessarily want to stay on the same thing. So you might want to jump on the drum kit, I might do that and just see what.
Yeah, I took drumming lessons for a summer and wish I had stuck with it more. But yeah, it's fun to just be able to play all the things.
But it was like an artistic and creative marathon where at the end of it you were completely wiped out, but you'd always like, I didn't know that I can do that, because we'd end up like my friend Clay would edit the music for the best parts of it, and we'd still have like an hour, like 90 minutes worth of stuff. Like we always joked around and said our first album release is going to be a 6 CD retro, box set retrospective. But I kind of wish I was able to set something up like that here, for a lot of the comics, and say, okay, it's going to be a writing session, but.
Well, no, it's like a marathon creating.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to bring out instruments and stuff. Like, well, I don't play. It doesn't matter if you play. We're not here trying to sound good.
I think a lot of comics are trying to do something where it's like a Facebook group or like a weekly meeting or something where they're trying to
out there, yeah.
Where they're trying to just get more creative and have something else to like work on to just strengthen their brain, like their creative brains. And I mean, a lot of them just don't stick. There's not like one Facebook group or like weekly meeting of that really has stuck around. And I think it's something we all want to do.
Yeah.
We all want to get together and like make each other's art better, but I don't know, it just hasn't.
We got to find somebody that has a house that doesn't mind us taking it over for
centrally located house where we can make music or write, experiment with different kinds of art, and then we all go to the open mics at the end of the night, but maybe we have some new ideas or we're starting to see things in a different way because our brains are working on other skills, which just makes your brain stronger and makes your art better.
So anybody, I don't know if whoever listens on the Denver scene, if somebody's got a house or a basement we can use, take it over. It's going to smell like weed afterwards, by the way. I'm just tell you right now.
Well, I mean, I would hope that anybody who would be into this would smoke weed. It is Denver.
Right, but
there's some, I mean, even the people I know that don't smoke weed are usually pretty cool with it.
Usually, for
the most part, yeah.
I would just say that
around here.
And the other thing, I don't know, I miss jamming. I miss it so much.
I miss jamming. I mean, I'm in a band right now, but I don't know. It's not like the Slate Triarchy, which is like a fun project. It's like all new. We're all in it together. All of our hearts are in the same place. Whereas like my band now, it's just like, it's all of my songs that I've written over the years and then like a drummer, and now we have a bass player. But you know what I mean? Like we haven't all really created anything together that's like new and exciting yet. So me personally, I'm getting kind of bored with it, but which is a terrible thing to say about my own band. But I mean, hopefully I find the life and the joy in that project again, because I love making music, and I've been getting the itch more lately. To like the other day, I was listening to a song, and I just wanted to listen to that song over and over and over again all day. I was like, God damn it, I've got to play this song. And it was Holland 1945 by Neutral Milk Hotel. And I was just like, I just have to play this right now. Like, it was just like came over me. I was like, ah! Yeah. And then I just made a little video of me playing it because I was just like, my brain just got so fixated on that song. I was like, this song's so good. And then after that, I was like, I should cover the rest of that album, or I should write a new song, like what kind of song do I want to write? And so I have been getting the itch to put something out there. Maybe a solo acoustic, because it's just so much easier.
Yeah.
For me to just put something out there, like make it in freaking GarageBand and just throw it up on Bandcamp. Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, I made the Hitler song. I made all that in GarageBand. That was just me.
Oh, wow.
I didn't need a band for that. I'm like, I really don't need one, except for live shows, no offense.
Yeah.
To people that flip me, but I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do musically in the future, because the kind of music I make right now is definitely the kind of music I've always made, but I've become influenced by so much different kinds of stuff since then. I want to be in a different kind of band, like I want to make different kind of music just to see that I can. Like I want to make psychedelic dance music. Right now I make like alternative rock, punk rock, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
totally.
Definitely, but I'm like, I want to make synthy, like psychedelic dance music, and I want to have all these visuals, and I want people to want to do acid and like paint at my shows, like because I love Flaming Lips and of Montreal and fucking like Heady Psych.
and dance psych, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to use a lot of things. Like I know how to play guitar. I don't know how to use computers that well. I'm getting better at it. I don't know how to use like
You know what I found out with like my main form of training that I really devoted a lot of time in school to was theater, right? So, uh, which was really really intense because it's a conservatory in New York. They're like really freaking psychotic about how they teach all this different techniques and stuff. So, when I wasn't doing any acting, as a matter of fact, it's kind of silly. Like these paintings, most of them were from this year that I lived with my buddy Clay and our friend Kirk, and we had no furniture in the house, so we just made the main rooms just studio space. And he kind of turned me on to painting to the point where we'd get off work, have a couple of beers, paint till 4 or 5 in the morning, pass out, wake up, go to work, come back, paint till 4 or 5 in the morning. So for a whole year, the whole entire inside of the house is nothing but canvases and of all this different stuff that we were playing. So from learning how not to make mistakes and how to be patient with myself through oil painting, when I picked up a guitar, that helped me be patient when I couldn't, because your hands don't make these movements normally. So trying to figure out like how to make
oh,
it
it's so hard.
yeah, totally. So that taught me patience. But that, when I took a film editing class, everybody's getting super frustrated and like giving up and just walking away from the computer. I'm like, I know this is going to make sense because I had the patience with myself from music and from painting, and that transferred to film editing and all the other stuff. It's my stuff. My shit's still super sloppy. Doesn't matter. But the point is that it's funny how the creative energy just keeps finding different ways to kind of get into stuff. You just got to figure out how to focus it, you know.
Yeah, I definitely for the Phone It In Film Festival last year that Zach Moss puts on. It's in November every year. I made a music video with my band, and we just like you have to film it on your phone, and we went and filmed we filmed a bunch of scenes at Mutiny Information Cafe, and then we rented out some space at Rocket Space and did like the performance shots, and then I edited all that together. And that was my first time where you're like, oh, it's the tedious process because you have to line up, the words with the shots of performance, and it takes a long time. But yeah, through doing that, that was definitely like good for me to kind of learn how to edit something like that and like make a music video where there is a lip sync that's lined up, and that's something I thought would be so much harder than it was.
Right.
It really wasn't that hard. It just took some time.
You know, what's kind of funny is that I remember years ago when I first started this podcast, I had my screenwriting teacher and her husband, who was a director and producer, talking to them and about their whole thing because they were starting their own studio. And her, bless you, by the way, her husband was a musician, right? And he's like, yeah, I found like music, if people who were really into music have a much easier time editing than people who are not into music.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just understand there's like an ebb and flow and stuff. I'm like, oh, this fits there, and, as we're rounding third here, because this will be up next Monday.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have if Slate Hierarchy has any dates or if you got any dates coming up.
So I've got, I do have shows coming up. Just like, what are the dates? It's on my phone. Hold on, I can go grab my phone and look at it and see.
Fair enough.
It's been good. I was like, I don't want any distractions. So places you can see me after next Monday, when I guess this will be out. So on the 26th, I'm on a show called Study Hall at Call to Arms Brewery, which I believe is at 8 o'clock, and that's a free show, and you can see me there. And then the next day, September 27th, I'm on a show at Wild Women Wine called Big Girl Pants, and that one's at 7:30. And I think, that one's like a wine tasting show. And then next month, I'll be doing costumes, so, there's that. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. October 6th, I'm on Designated Drunkard at the Comedy Room at El Torito, and that's at 7 p.m., and that'll be a really fun one. So, yeah, those are the things I would suggest coming out to. probably Designated Drunkard on October 6th for sure. Because that one's
Space is limited on that one, guys.
that it's a limited space. I haven't. I've been to that show and I know it's really fun, so I'm excited to do it. So they write on like a big notepad behind me what they think I'm gonna talk about in my act, and every time I mention something on the list, you take a drink. So it's like a fun drinking game, and there's fun comedy. So yeah, that'll be cool. And yeah, as far as music goes, I don't have anything coming up right now.
Well, if folks want to listen to you, they could look up just your name on YouTube, or
I would suggest, if you want like the real collection of my music, pipershepherd.bandcamp.com. I have 4 singles out, and you can download them for pay what you want. Some of them are some of them are free, some of them are $1 more, but I don't know, if you feel like you want to check out my music or kick me a couple bucks for a song for a download, it'll help me buy stuff for costumes and make more art. Basically, it all goes back into the art.
yeah.
But pipershepherd.bandcamp, and also YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube. I have a lot of cover videos up there, and some other songs that aren't on my Bandcamp. And yeah.
And I'll make sure to put all that in the liner notes, guys. So if you're just listening to this, check out the liner notes of this particular podcast. And hey, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, guys. We need all the subscribes, all the likes.
Subscribe.
Exactly. Even on Piper's YouTube, on my YouTube, on everybody's YouTube. As a matter of fact, spend the whole day and just give some love and just subscribe to everybody.
Just help everybody.
Exactly. It'll confuse a lot of people who don't understand why you're subscribing to them. But I'm on YouTube at the DisJointed Podcast. Also, check out my Patreon at DisJointed Dave, and there'll be links in the liner notes for that one as well. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, DisJointed Pod, or just go to denvercomedy.net and you can find all the links to all that other good stuff. So,
yeah,
because I had that set into me anyway. I bought denvercomedy.net and .org when I got here.
I think I'm going to change my Twitter handle to something easier to spell, but it is Exorcistasy. EXORCISTASY.
I'm so glad you did that, because I'm like, I can't even say it.
Yeah. Well, just spell the word exorcist and add ASY.
There you go, guys.
And yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming by, Piper. This has been way too long coming. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, I've been meaning to do this. This is really fun.
No, but I was thinking about asking you this like 2 years ago, and I'm like,
I think you have. I think we've tried. I've tried to be on this a couple times, and for some reason or another.
Yeah, then I just stopped coming around the scene for a bit.
Yeah. And then you see me post a song on Facebook. You're like, you should come do the podcast. I'm like, I will. Let's do it.
That's awesome.
So I'm glad I finally got to do it. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So signing off for the DisJointed Podcast, I'm Dave Germain.